a public hearing in the Village of Riverwoods appropriations ordinance for the fiscal year ending December 31, 2023. Roll call, please.
Trustee Jamerson is absent tonight. Trustee Clayton,
Here.
trustee Eastman,
Here.
trustee Dickin. Here. Trustee Hollander,
Here.
trustee Haber,
Here.
President Ford.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, this is the hearing. So the presentation of the appropriations ordinance, I'm going to turn it over to our attorney to talk about that.
The appropriation ordinance begins on page 46 of the packet. As you know, state law requires that we hold a public hearing before we pass the appropriations ordinance. This sets the appropriations for the village for fiscal year 2023. That's from January 1 to December 31 of 2023. And the appropriations ordinance is essentially empowering the village to spend money, but not obligating the village to spend money. It sets an upper limit on how much can be spent by appropriating within various funds and within the line items for the various funds that are shown in the ordinance. The major funds of the village, which you see in the appropriation ordinance, include the general fund, the water fund, the sewer fund, the motor fuel tax fund. We have a couple of TIF funds. Capital Projects Fund. Thank you.
Police fund.
Police is part of the general fund.
General fund.
Part of the general fund. We also appropriate for our special service areas, which adds immeasurably to the length of the document. If you turn to page 65 of the packet, one of the things we do is recap the appropriations for all of the funds in this table. I would remind the board that these are upper limits on spending. They don't obligate the board to spend this money. Most of the line items throughout the appropriation ordinance are simply the amounts from the budget that everyone on the board has reviewed, increased by 10%. The exceptions to that are some of the line items that we put in to give the board enough room for unexpected events, capital projects that may or may not occur, for which there's an appropriation, contingency for items we haven't thought about. In the past, we've had line items for transfers to other funds that we expect to have deficits. We don't have any transfers to the water or sewer fund this year, but we do have transfers into the capital projects fund. So in sum, we have the table that shows all of the appropriation amounts by fund, and it'd be appropriate at this time to take any comment from the public or questions from the board.
Are there any questions from any of the trustees regarding the appropriations ordinance? Are there any questions from the public? Okay, hearing none and seeing none,
Motion to close the
moving
hearing.
forward.
Motion to close the hearing.
May I have a motion to close the hearing, please? So moved.
Second.
Okay, I think we need a roll call for this.
Trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Dickin.
Aye.
Trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Eastman.
Aye.
Hearing is closed.
Okay, now I'm going to call to order the Board of Trustees meeting of the Village of Riverwoods. And I'd like to start our meeting with the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Clayton,
Here.
trustee Eastman,
Here.
trustee Haber,
Here.
trustee Dickin. Here. Trustee Hollander,
Here.
President Ford.
Here.
We have a quorum.
First order of business is the approval of minutes, of the board meeting of March 7, 2023. Do I have a motion for approval, please?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Questions, comments? Okay, all in favor of approving the minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, all opposed, same sign, and trustee Clayton is abstaining. All right, the next item of business is the approval of bills. Do I have a motion for approval of bills, please? Is
So moved.
there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions? Are there any comments? Okay, hearing none and seeing none. Roll call, please.
Trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Haber.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, the next item of business is as our Treasurer and Finance Committee report. We're going to begin with a presentation by JP Morgan. So if you'll give me a minute, I'm going to get our representative on the phone, Danielle Driscoll, who's been with us for quite some time, to review the portfolio with us. Danielle, this is Chris. I'm going to put you on the speakerphone now. Okay. Okay, would you like to speak on that and make sure we're all connected? Whoops. Okay, go ahead, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect.
So Danielle, just so you know the lay of the room, we have all trustees with the exception of one present. We have a couple members of the audience, and your presentation was up on the screen for a minute here. So what we're, the trustees do have copies in front of them. And if you will please guide us by announcing the page number as you go through your presentation.
Certainly. Are we ready to go now?
No.
Am I on?
Yeah, you're, I
Okay.
mean, your speaker is on, but the presentation is almost there.
Oh, no, I meant like, so you've already done your roll, your
Oh,
roll
yes,
call
yes,
and all
yes,
that?
yes. Oh, it's time for you. Yes, it's absolutely time for you.
Okay, I got it. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, while we work on it, maybe you can start just discussing generally what
Yeah,
JP
let
Morgan
me
does
just,
for us and so forth.
Yeah, sure. Well, thank you all for having me tonight, and I'll be it remotely. The presentation is pretty much the same as it has been, you know, year in and year out. I'm not really changing it a whole lot. I've added a couple of things, but first and foremost, I guess, would be hitting on an overview of, you know, what a crazy ride we've been on this last 10 days. We have the Fed meeting tomorrow, which our economist is calling for a 25 basis point increase. And he thinks the forward guidance is going to change. The language is going to change slightly. He thinks there'll be no change to the quantitative the reduction of the balance sheet. As far as the median dot, he thinks there'll be one further rate hike with a risk of two more potentially, all 25s. And he's thinking this because inflation is still a big concern. And if he stops, you know, if the numbers don't warrant, you know, his march on the inflation front, it's going to send a mixed signal, you know, that the Fed's toolbox can't deal with inflation, and he wants to consider the banking crisis, or they do, you know, separately from what they do. So there's two toolboxes, one for, you know, the economy, and then one for banking crisis. And that's how they want to keep it. But my, you know, humble opinion I think if they continue to raise rates too much, I think you're going to see more of this balance sheet issues with corporations as well as banks, even municipalities. I mean, not all municipalities, especially the very large ones, have to stick to the statute like you guys do. So I have municipalities that have very long parts of their portfolio that are underwater, you know, and think about that for some of the corporate entities out there as well. And insurance companies, you know, you name it. So this was a pretty fast and furious, you know, rise in rates. So that's why I think they're going to, I don't know how they're going to save face, but, you know, I think in the back burner, they can't go too crazy. And that concerns me, honestly, is the other balance sheet, you know, woes that are out there that we don't know about, you know. So anyway, that's just a brief thing that we're seeing. I have never been busier, and I've been involved in this market since Washington Public Power went bust, you know, in the 80s. So this, to me, seems much more serious than even the 2008 recession because of the unknown. You know, I don't see them issuing rather guaranteed corporates or anything. But this is a serious crisis, and we'll have to just see how it you know, how it pans out. And the thing that worries me also is our reliance on China and how that's going to play out with everything that's going on, you know, between Saudi Arabia and Iran and China and Russia. And that's another whole scenario. And why not hit us when we're down, you know? But I don't know. I guess I'm shocked by kind of what happened. Credit Suisse, just an FYI on this side, that is a credit that I have not touched because I have corporate entities as well for a couple of years, and mainly because it was trading very poorly, very high yielding, and it hadn't really turned a profit in a very long time. So I mean, what bank doesn't turn a profit? So I never got it, so I just never sold it, which was good. But, you know, does anyone have any questions on, you know, what we're thinking? I have a lot of that stuff in front of me.
I think if you can just, I don't know if you can hear me, Danielle, it's Bruce, but if you could maybe just, after you've delivered those very concerning remarks, pivot at least a little bit at some point tonight and how our portfolio is structured, and especially to avoid any of those problems. I think that's really would be our primary focus immediately.
Also, if I may add, Danielle, we do have your presentation up on the screen. So if you could please guide us as you move along whenever it's time to switch pages so that we could display the relevant pages when you speak.
Yeah. Well, just briefly, with what's happening in the market in your portfolio is incredibly short. So we are well positioned to make moves. We're very nimble with what's going on in the portfolio. We have basically $500,000 at least maturing almost every month going forward. And that's something I'm going to get into at the end as far as something that you guys need to talk about, because it may be time at some point to put money out a little bit longer. And by a little longer, I'm saying maybe out 2 years, you know. And I'm thinking that first and foremost, based on your cash flow needs. If there's going to be any large expenditures, we want to make sure we match the portfolio to what that may be. But secondly, I didn't think we were going to be heading for a significant recession, and now I think we will be, not as bad as '08, but I think we will be in a recession. We'll be in a recession where everyone's working, you know, so that has me concerned that rates will start to dip lower, but I don't think we'll see back to where we were when it was like 20 basis points, you know. I think these levels are here to stay. So anyway, is that good enough until we get into the meat? And if you want to ask another question at the end?
Yeah, I think we're ready to move forward.
Okay,
And then we can come back to that. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to skip, I mean, the first page is just, you know, my team. And Mike Carney, who you've met, we were there together, I don't know, pre-COVID, I think. And Dave Sipple is our admin who has been with me since my Bank of Montreal days. We've been together for a number of years, and we just work with the government and non-for-profit sectors with some corporate accounts as well. I have our forecast on page 2. I've skipped now. When this was printed, or this part of it was printed on March 10th, and that's when our last forecast came out that was adjusted, and the 2-year at the time was a 4.59. The 2-year, as I'm sitting here right this minute, is a 4.13. So we have come off of these levels. This was pre, you know, banks blowing up. I don't know what our forecast actually looks like because it will be adjusted this Friday. I don't even want to fathom a guess what they're thinking, you know, out on this you know, the 3-year, like the 3-year, for example, right now is a 3.95. We were at a 4.30, but notice that they were calling for rates to start coming down in June. What I'll do is on Friday when it's updated, I will send it to you, Chris, and maybe you can get it out to the board. I mean, they don't have a crystal ball. They have, in my whole 15 years at JP Morgan, I don't know when they've been right, to be honest with you. But I mean, it's a look, you know.
Yeah, not real helpful there.
Yeah, no. So we'll skip that. But you know, that's what happens in these markets. You know, stuff happens and it just changes. You'll notice the next page 3, 4, and 3 and 4 are the state statutes, which you guys are governed by, and I've highlighted them in different colors, which will correspond to the graphs on the next pages. So this was put together, all the numbers are as of 3/16, so they're not that old. So we did see movement. So some of these all these numbers are more accurate as far as what the current yields are. We're on page 5 now.
You know, Danelle, if I could ask you at this point, maybe you could describe the term brokered CDs. Because again, that's bank reference kinds of securities, and that might be a good thing to.
Oh, certainly, certainly. Okay, so obviously JP Morgan issues CDs, and that would be an on-balance sheet issuance. Their JP Morgan CDs are very unattractive right now, but there are small local banks throughout the country that issue CDs, and they broker them through dealers. So they're actually traded securities. They're backed by FDIC insurance. They have an FDIC number. We monitor the FDIC number so we're not duplicating anything. If a bank goes bust and gets taken over by another bank that you own, that FDIC number remains unscathed until it matures, and then you would not buy that bank again. It would have to be whoever bought the bank. When a CD does go bust, I've lived through that in 08 and 09, the FDIC comes in pretty much like you saw with Signature and Silicon Valley Bank. Within the week, they're there. And depending on the size of the bank, you will get your principal and interest if it's $250,000 or less. Typically within a week, it can be, I've seen as long as a month, but a very tiny bank, and that's when everything was closing. That was in 08, 09. So anyway, these have QSIPs, which are identifying numbers for the security, and they trade, and they trade in the open market. But I will add that these securities are not very liquid. These are really buy and hold securities because you're buying such a small amount. 245 is the max that we recommend buying. There's a spread when you sell it. We're going to sell it. We have to get 5 bids. Whoever gives us the highest bid, if you were to sell it. So we recommend that these are held to maturities. The only time we see sales is when there's a really significant cash flow need, by an institution.
Thank you.
Does that help? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Cindy?
So this is what you are allowed to buy in the short end. I did not put short taxable munis on this. And at the time when I put this together, munis in general have been fairly scarce with this large increase in rates. They are out there, but it's more opportunistic. So for me to put down a scale, it would be crazy because I might be able to get you a 5 1/4. It might be a 470. It just depends. So I didn't put it on here in the short end. But you can see at the time of putting this together, this is all pretty accurate. So spreads have come back into the market. So corporates are now, pretty much the highest yielding asset class. And commercial paper is up there in the very shortest end. But you see treasuries are finally the lowest asset class. Previously, last year, the blue and the green line were right on top of each other. There was no difference between agencies and treasuries. Agencies being like Federal Home Loan Bank, Federal Farm Credit, Fannie Mae, and Freddie. So those are implied obligations of the government. They are not direct obligations of the government. They are allowable in the statutes. So that is that. Commercial paper has really risen in here with what's been going on. Wouldn't recommend that for you guys. That in at the time of potentially illiquid markets, we're not there, but if the market were to become illiquid, commercial paper is really probably the last thing you want to own, because it's commercial paper, and it can trade very wide, because whoever's selling that commercial paper, we have hundreds of programs that we offer. And that's going to come back on our balance sheet. So there, the spread could be significant on that product. It's not today, but I'm just saying it's something that could happen. So I tend to steer clear of that today, not necessarily forever, but today. Moving on to page 6, we have the yield comparison here going out 1, 2, and 3 years. This is accurate. The 1 year, though, Treasury on both that 5 and 6 is now really pretty handily at a 4.5%. It's edging upward. The 2 year is the same, and the 3 year is the same. Agencies have actually come down. We had some really significant increases on agencies. You're seeing it in the 2 and 3 year, but the 1 year is tighter than it was. Brokered CDs, safe can be, but I call them lead balls in your portfolio because they're not liquid. But if you position them properly, it's going to be one of the highest yielding asset classes today. I'm not saying that wasn't 3 months ago. It's today because people are shying away from CDs because they don't want to deal with all this. And a lot of people don't understand exactly what the whole thing is. I mean, basically there's a lot of fear in the market right now. Same with corporates, that class has widened, which, I'm quite honestly very thankful for, because if you remember last year when we talked about this, there was very little spread between these asset classes. And it was crazy because there's risk associated with, more risk than with some than others. And that's why, it's hard to justify buying a corporate bond if they're not going to pay you, 50 basis points more, for example, in my opinion. So they're doing that now, which is a good thing. Taxable munis continue to be very attractive, in my opinion. Good credits only. Ones that we could embrace. And when Hal and I talk about reinvesting the money, it really is, it's like, can you live with the credit? And not only can you live with it, but I have to live with it because I do take this very seriously, and I don't want to lose sleep over your portfolio either. So that's kind of where we are on the current look at the situation. This could change. Corporates could widen. Agencies should widen, but they just haven't caught up to treasuries because treasuries have been whipping around. Just crazy movements in that market. The next page, which I see, is not numbered on mine. Oh my goodness.
It's
Yeah, so it would be just the next page, which would be 7.
pie chart.
It's the pie.
Yeah.
Okay. That is your portfolio composition as far as the breakdown of what you have in asset classes. Your brokered CDs, you're going to notice when we get to the nitty gritty of looking at, kind of what's in the portfolio. Those are your longest positions, which aren't very long, but they're also older, and they have I think they have 50 basis point coupons, So if with the money that comes due, if we were to buy a couple of CDs going out a year or so, we would pick up considerable yield from the ones that you currently have. And this is new to what Hal and I have been doing. The CD increase in yield is very, very recent, in the last 3 weeks. And by the way, he has the money market on here, but does not have the rate. I did look it up. before. Today's yield was 402 on that. And if you guys want to write this down, the symbol for that money market, if you were to, look in the paper, et cetera, online, is Mary Joseph George X-ray X-ray. If you wanted to look and see what the yield was. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay. Summarizing this, your total holdings are a little over 11 million. Your weighted average yield to maturity is 3.20, and your weighted average life is a little over half a year. And you can see we're not beating the treasuries, but again, these are fairly recent moves. We will be beating the treasury, within the next 6 months, I project, because of what you have coming due. We should be able to beat it.
Got it.
Okay. So moving on to the next page, which is a look at your portfolio. This does not take into consideration your money market holdings. This is just your securities. So this gives you your yield to maturity at a same thing, 3.20. It just kind of breaks down the numbers. Nothing really to talk too much about on this, unless you do have a slight loss, 89,000, and we use a pricing service that looks at the last trade. So some of these things may not have traded to even give you an accurate price, but that's what they'll look at. They don't price every single security. It's more of a matrix. So, and you'll see the bulk of those losses are going to be in those last CDs that you have coming due. But we're holding them, so there'll be no loss.
Danielle, just a moment. I think we have a question.
I was just going to point out, those are unrealized losses. When we hold the maturity, we don't lose anything.
Yeah.
Just wanted to clarify that.
I can't hear you very clearly. Is there any way,
Yes, here.
Chris,
here's
I can
the-
hear you really well.
Right, because I'm speaking right at you. What?
Oh.
No, what he's saying, he's just clarifying that unrealized losses aren't, that's not a real loss. We're not
Oh,
selling anything. We're
absolutely.
not recognizing the loss.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes.
Okay, are there,
Okay.
yeah, are there any other questions at this point? Okay.
All right.
I think your next couple of things are the next one on page 10, I think that's interesting, is that the cash flow projection?
Right. So just just slide 9 briefly,
Mhm.
you have 9.635 million coming due in less than a year. So that's 91% of the portfolio. And the remainder coming due in that one, it's actually not even the longest item in the portfolio is August of 24. So that's just, and that's just reiterating what's going on. This is a new slide that I love. I loaded your portfolio into Bloomberg, and this gives Hal's probably going to love this.
Hal is
This
with us
gives
tonight. Hal is in the
Oh.
audience tonight. So
Oh, nice.
he's smiling.
Yeah. Well, this actually, is wonderful because it tells you exactly what's coming due. It doesn't give you the security, but it allows you to see what principal is rolling off, which I like. And so we'll be able to take advantage of these higher rates going forward, pretty much right away. As you can see. In the July and August, as I mentioned, the 490,000, those are 4 CDs. 245 apiece.
Got it. Okay. Cash flow wise, I think trustee Mike Clayton has done a number of projections, budget projections, capital projections. And I think this will be useful information to him. Do you agree? Yes. So this is
Oh,
very
good.
useful. So yes.
And if you do have some cash flow projections that you actually solidify, it would be very helpful, in making a decision, versus, 6 months versus 8 months versus, I mean,
Yeah.
not always, but we can, tweak the portfolio to, match your cash flow needs if they're significant,
Yeah. No forced.
So just keep in mind. So anyway, just some observations, having 91% of the portfolio mature in less than a year, keeps us very well positioned in this changing environment to take advantage of these short-term higher rates. I don't believe that's going to change. The long end may start to rise a bit, and maybe we want to take advantage of that. And by long, like I said, 2 years, maybe a little longer. Well, I mean, we'll have to see what your cash flow needs are
Right.
and what the projections are. But even with the volatility that we've seen in rates, we're still 400 basis points better than we were last year, as far as what we're looking at reinvesting in, which is great. And so let's see, what else do I have here? And you are sitting on 400 odd thousand, and with these higher rates, I mean, you are getting 4% on the money, but we could possibly tweak that and put it out if you didn't need it. And by out, I mean, maybe we go to 6 months and you can earn 480 or whatever it is now. I think it hit 480 earlier, but maybe it's 475. It's just, at these rates, it's just so nice to see how much you can actually earn, finally. The other thing, so that's what I mentioned there is the 430,000. And, my goal in working with Hal on this is, like I mentioned, looking at opportunistic purchases that fall within the guidelines that we have with the state statutes. For example, I had a 1-year state of Connecticut taxable GO this week. Last week. It was last Thursday at a 505 yield. Very attractive. AA, GO for the whole state of Connecticut. We had 4 million, sold it 5 times over. So that's what I mean by opportunistic. There might be that crops up, and that would be something, I would reach out to Hal with the maturity that he's coming up and say, this is what we should buy. This is it versus, and I'm always comparing it versus the government and other things we could buy.
I think that, we'll be taking a close look at cash needs, but I don't know if we foresee anything right now. Trustee Hollander, did you have a question?
Yeah, is it possible to get a running 10-year, what the fund looks like each year? In other words, I remember a few years ago, we had approximately $8 million in the fund, but I'm not sure where it's been each year over the last 10 years.
You want a market
and-
value?
And the reason isn't just for my curiosity. There is a philosophy that the entity should not be increasing the reserves more than it needs. And we ought to be plowing back into the community some of these funds that we're accumulating. What I don't know is, did we have 13 million 5 years ago and now we have 10? And so that doesn't apply. But if we're increasing our funds each year by a significant amount, we might want to consider looking at what we can do for the community with some of this excess.
There used to be 10-year tables in our audited statements that had our fund balances for each of those years. And I think until recently we had those. I don't know if in the current audit we do, but they show, you can trace, maybe we can provide this information at least until the last year or two, we have that 10-year information.
Yeah. And be mindful of during that period, we paid for the building.
No, I
So,
understand, but
Just saying, just a note.
there's always that tension between how much does a government entity accumulate and what does it put back into the community and how much do we really need? I don't have an answer for it, but I'd at least like to know the numbers.
Oh, absolutely. Trustee Clayton, did you have your hand up? Would you like to?
Just a question? if I could?
Absolutely.
Okay. Recognizing that there's a higher risk in corporates, corporates only make up 14% of our total mix right at the moment, but by far the highest rate of return. Do you think that we're a little underinvested in corporates, given the risks that you outlined at the beginning?
Danielle, did you hear that question clearly?
No, the end was garbled. I'm sorry. If you could just, Chris, could you just
Absolutely.
summarize it?
Sure. Corporates, biggest part of the portfolio, or not as, it's a fair sized part of the portfolio. We seem to have the biggest return. Do you have a position on increasing that allocation?
And the corporate bonds?
Yeah,
Well, corporates, you have 14% and you are allowed 33%. 1/3 of your portfolio could be in corporates. Possibly. I'd like things to settle down a bit because spreads are widening significantly in some corporates, and most of the attractive corporates are going to be your banks. That's just the nature of the beast. If I showed you Apple or Microsoft or whatever, I'm just trying to think of some names. Oh, Caterpillar even. They're going to trade a very slight spread to treasuries versus financials like JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley. I'm talking the biggies, they're always going to trade higher. And that's basically what I'm quoting here when I gave you those yields. That doesn't represent Caterpillar and Apple.
so being opportunistic, would you envision increasing the corporate or decreasing the corporate position?
No, I would keep it, every time something matures, we look at everything. We look at every single asset class that we can buy and make a decision based on, concentrations, the rate pickup. And that's when the decision is made. If that asset class makes sense and, absolutely, I would see increasing that part of the portfolio. We increased treasuries and agencies so much because they were the most attractive asset class, and I think that's all we bought lately, Hal, was treasuries and agencies.
He's shaking his
Because
head, yes.
of, what the portfolio is made up of now 40%. And it wasn't really a flight to safety when we did this. It was just the most attractive asset class. This is how the Fed was funding itself. They were issuing a ton of treasury bills, so it was very attractive. And corporates, in my opinion, weren't spread wide enough, and now they are. But I just want to tread lightly and see just what else is going to happen. I just have,
Yeah.
I just want to, some balance sheets to shake out and see what's going on
Are there any other questions?
before
Yeah, are there?
we load up the truck.
Yeah. Trustee Clayton, please.
I'm having a little trouble understanding, given the rate uncertainty that we talked about throughout the entire presentation, the link between that and wanting to go out further, like to 2 years. Danielle mentioned that a couple of times. Maybe we should be looking to go further out. But given all the uncertainty and interest rates, why I'm having trouble rationalizing that.
Okay, so you're questioning why we would go out longer when there's the uncertainty around interest rates. Is that what
Yes.
you said?
Yes.
Okay. Because for fear of recession, I think it would be to hedge that a little bit. We anticipate rates lowering in the longer end. So if they go up now, maybe taking advantage, I'm not saying push the portfolio out, but maybe put some out because we may be reinvesting in lower rates. Like I mentioned, I don't think it's going to go back to single digits, but that was my thinking there.
Victor? Okay, that's good. Are there any other questions? Well, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Oh, sure.
And appreciate your comments, appreciate the good work you're doing in the portfolio. And it makes a difference to know that we're short, that we're confident of what we've got in the portfolio, and we have, minimized risk to the extent that we possibly could in the short end.
Yeah, and Hal, asked a gazillion questions. So just let me, you are well represented.
I have confidence.
I mean, my God, he kills me. But so anyway, happy to help. And Hal, he can shake his head yes or no, but I believe he has the breakdown of the portfolio, all the individual securities.
He does, yes. He's saying yes.
Okay, great. And then I can also send that under separate cover. I thought Dave included that as a separate standalone piece that I wasn't going to talk to, but I was going to provide you. And I'm happy to have him go ahead and print that and overnight it to you, Chris, so you can get it to everybody.
That would be
The
good.
one Hal has.
Yeah.
Let's do that. Because that
Okay.
may drum up some questions, and
Yeah.
again, offline, happy to help if anyone has any questions, maybe shoot them to Hal and we can grind them out.
Got it.
Okay?
Again, thank you so very much. Appreciate
All
your
right,
time this
thank you.
evening. And sorry about the technology.
No, I'm sorry. But anyway, we'll figure it
talk.
out. I'm getting, yeah. Thanks you guys very much. Have a good evening.
You too. Thanks so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yep, bye-bye.
Go. Turn on the mic. Upward.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Just a couple points here, Mike, to your last question. I think when you're looking at this, the differential in going out longer right now is not that pervasive. And even the risk of the corporates, when we talk to Danielle, it's that risk tolerance. I mean, from a 4.5 to a 4.9 or a 4.9 to a 5.4, we don't, back to Trustee Hollander's point too, is we're not looking to make a killing. We want safety above everything. And I think both of us shied away from these corporates and will in the next 3 to 6 months, because if there is going to be a fallout, I think the first people that would probably suffer the worst are the corporations. They won't be defended like a bank would. And they don't have FDIC beyond the 250. So we will tread lightly on those. And as Danielle said, periodically mix them in. If you look at that pie chart from where we were a year ago, it's completely different. We did have more in corporates because there wasn't a risk factor and they did give a higher yield. Now you've got risk that you didn't have before. So I think overall, we like Danielle said, we have moved a lot more to the agencies, not because of safety, because they were the best yield out there, even better than the corporates. And they provide the safety. So it was a perfect, match in that regard. And as far as timing goes, there was a lot of factors, that fortuitously led us to be cash rich as these rates started to increase. And now we just kept the duration short because I think that, if anybody's been following Powell and what he's been saying, he's basically lived up to his pledge to raise rates, consecutively. And I think we're still in for some of that. So we might have a window I don't know what their time frame is when she said 3 more rates of a quarter point each, but I think we still probably have a window of at least another 6 months, 5 to 6 months where the rates won't fall off. They might lower because of fears and things like that. But I think it's still a great environment for us to lock up, stay on the shorter end of things, but we will probably go out with some of these things into the 2-year range and everything else. I don't think you want to go much further than that because you do have a lot of risk, but it has worked out well for the village just because of timing and the way the rates have gone. And nobody wants, a deeper recession because everything will plummet. And we'll probably, like she said, we'll be renewing at lower rates if that were the case. But I mean, just go back to when we were talking about money market rates of like 1/8 of a point, I mean, and to your point, Trustee Hollander, I'll bet you're going to find that it's been pretty flat because we've had no return on investment for a lot of those years, and we haven't added to the pile a whole lot. And I think after this, the expenditure for the building, it's pretty much been pretty level. So I don't know that it's grown, but I'd be interested to see that in your chart and things. So, but yeah, I think Danielle's great. I mean, she's smarter than anybody I've talked to that's in this municipal market, and she knows us. She knows our limited little narrow lane of risk. And like she said, when something comes due, I get 3 or 4 emails of possible considerations, and we kick it around. And I always have the questions of, do you see the top of this rate? Are we peaking or things like that? So we kind of consider a lot of the variables that we all consider in our personal portfolios and timing. So she's a great partner in that regard, and makes it easy, really. Anything else that people questioned or I need to elaborate on as far as that? Okay.
I think we're good. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. Moving forward, Trustee Clayton, did you have something you'd like to add to the discussion here?
Just to bring the board up to speed as to where we are with various matters. In terms of the state of the financial reconciliations, we're still working through, although we're getting now closer to ones that are less material, and we might be able to make some accounting adjustments to deal with them. But given where we are right now, we're expecting to have financial statements for 2022, January and February around mid-April. The audit has kicked off, and we're going to have people from Selden Fox on site starting March 27th. And all indications are that we're ready for them to come in and whatever lists that they had posted and so on ahead of time, that we're on top of that. We're going to be looking at the impact of the Northbrook water rate increase on residential rates and to make some policy decisions there. And just to let you know from the sales tax information that Thornton's is off to a healthy start.
Good to hear. Did you ever receive any more questions on the budget, or we're going to run with the budget as is then? Thank you. Are there any questions for Trustee Clayton? Okay, moving forward, Director of Community Services report, please.
Everything I have was on the rest of the agenda. I'll pick it up then.
Consultants report, Village Attorney's report, please.
I don't have anything.
Village Engineer.
Good evening. Just a quick couple updates. So the water main extension was completed on Deerfield Road. The testing came back all good, so that's been reopened now. The last bit is the 30 feet on Chicory. They're going to be out there on Thursday. They've already communicated out to all parties. Again, the shutdown is going to be more limited to just the neighborhood and the people impacted. It should not impact the commercial or Elevate since we have the new extension in. We have started putting together a bid package for the Riverwoods pathway to go out to bid with that, along with the 2023 road program. The road program will probably go out next week out to bid, and then Riverwoods Road path will probably trail a couple weeks after that. And then I met with Team Real out at the playground area here on Friday just to talk about layout and potential start. And they're looking to hopefully start probably mid to late April with that. And that's all I have.
Are there any questions? Trustee Haber, please.
This question might be better for Russ, but it came to mind now and you might answer it as well. So east of Meadow Lake, west of Meadow Lake, there's a single family home that there's like all kinds of construction being done, like digging up the front yard and everything. Do we know what's going on there?
I didn't review
Are
anything.
you're talking about it's a single family house? and it's
Single family home
I
that's
believe
been
that
kind of
is the Scora property,
I thought
the Scora property.
Scora property.
I believe
Oh,
that's
I'm
what
sorry.
you're
So
referring
Meadow
to.
Lake, I guess.
It's west of Meadow Lake.
Oh, I thought you meant
Deerfield
within the
Road.
subdivision
No,
of
no, no,
Meadow
no,
Lake.
no.
My bad.
On Deerfield Road,
Yep.
west of Meadow
That's
Lake.
all because they did a lot of open trenching. So once they're gonna tidy that up, once they finish up Chicory, they'll do all the restoration together. So they'll come through and regrade and put that back to finished grade.
Okay, because that house is like abandoned, right?
That is what we are working on.
West of that, yeah, I'm already in process of working with owner of that. So we're gonna go in there, do an inspection. That house probably hasn't been lived in. Oh, excuse me, I should do that. That house probably hasn't been lived in for at least 10 years. So we have trying to set up an appointment to get in there and see it because I'm not even sure if that house is worth saving anymore. Yeah, if it's
Doesn't look like it from the outside, obviously.
yeah, God knows what it's like on the inside, you know, you abandon a house and I don't know if anybody's been in there. With the hot summers and cold winters, you get a lot of heat, you're gonna get a lot of, I would imagine there's gotta be some mold growing in that place and God knows what else. So trying to get in there and we're gonna see.
So what are
what's
the
gonna
next
happen.
steps if it is abandoned?
They've been notified that we will be in there taking a look and that there are consequences.
I'll get
that could
together with
follow.
Bruce after that. If I think it's not gonna be rebuildable, then we'll get together and see where we gotta go, what the next steps are.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah, it's. Thank you for the question. Is there anything else for the village engineer? Or the director? Okay, ecologist report. It's not with us tonight. We don't have anything to report there. The plan commission report, please. Chairman Brighthoff.
Evening. The Plan Commission met on March the 16th. We reopened the Lexington Homes hearing on the townhome development on the Federal Life property. Lexington presented its revised plan. The plan now has 54 units instead of the original 69 units. It has more open space. There'll be no modifications to the tree and woodland protection ordinance. The internal road circulation has been improved. And the retention ponds have been reconfigured to allow a more natural setting. Tesca commented that some tweaks are still needed to enhance the livability in the development. And the village engineer said that there are further technical matters to be presented, that they will work on those. Affordable housing is a component of the plan. Lexington has proposed 3 units on site and payments in lieu for the remaining 5 units. But there's been no discussion so far by the Plan Commission on the amount of the payments in lieu or the number of affordable units on site. Lexington said there'd be no runoff from the Federal Life properties to the Meadow Lake property, from the Federal Life property to any Meadow Lake properties. They will provide exhibits for the Plan Commission to review before the next meeting. There were comments from several residents. The issues that were raised were parking, height of buildings, safety and fencing issues, lighting, flooding and runoff issues, tree removal, and replanting of trees. The hearing will continue at the next Plan Commission meeting, which will be on April the 20th at 7:30 p.m.
Are there any questions for our chairman? Thank you. Zoning Board of Appeals, I'm sure didn't meet. Police report, please.
The activity, police activity is in your packets. Of note, a couple of things. On December 22nd of 2022, we began an investigation into criminal sexual assault involving a firearm that occurred in one of our businesses. We did have suspect information very quickly and have been developing information, and we were able to obtain a warrant for his arrest. On March 9th, we located him in Downers Grove and asked Downers Grove to respond to a hotel in their village. And they were able to locate him and take him into custody in our warrant. Our warrant charges him with 3 counts of criminal sexual assault and 2 counts of aggravated domestic battery. We're also looking to add more charges to that. Also on Saturday night, we had a burglary at our smoke shop where a person broke a window and removed some items from the smoke shop. We were able to develop suspect information on that through a video. And we also used our flock camera access. We don't have the cameras yet, but we have access to get a license plate on the vehicle, because we knew what the vehicle looked like from the camera, but we didn't have a license plate. I mean, from the security cameras, we didn't have a license plate. The flock cameras gave us a license plate. We determined that the suspect lived in Wisconsin. He has since been taken into custody in Wisconsin on an unrelated arrest warrant. And we're working on building our case to get a warrant, but we're confident that the person who committed the burglary is in custody. And that's all I have.
Are there any questions for the chief? Trustee Haber, please.
Last meeting, you reported on 2 residential burglaries. I was wondering if there's any developments on those.
We're working with other towns on those, actively. So it's not a closed, I mean, it's not a dead, we're not at a dead end. We're still actively looking at those.
Any other questions for our chief? Trustee Dickon.
I know that they have some of the Lake County permits, and I just emailed them recently asking if they know when they're going to start putting them in. I think the first one may go in May, but that was just an estimate. They don't have all of the permits yet, but they're working on getting them.
Any other questions? Okay, moving on. The only thing I have this evening is a reminder to those of you who have been contacted that you need to complete the statement of economic interest by May 1st. That's elected officials. So if you have any questions, that would be good. I don't think it counts for you, Trustee Haber. Anyway, a reminder to please complete those.
Additionally, I've had a few questions. You don't need to send it to me, although I appreciate it. Lake County keeps track of them for me, and so I will reach out if necessary.
Online. Did you get it, Hal? You wait for the threat? Is that it? Ah, okay. Thank you. And is there anything else? Okay, visitors wishing to address the board. Do we have anybody that is with us this evening that wishes to address us? Okay, thank you. New business. First item, approval of the appropriation ordinance for fiscal year ending December 31, 2023. Do I have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry.
I move to waive first reading.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Okay, roll call, please. Voice vote, really? Okay, voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passes. A motion for adoption.
I'll move for second reading.
Second reading and adoption.
Second.
Okay. Are there any comments, questions? Roll call.
Trustee Haber,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Hollander.
Aye.
Ordinance 230302 passes.
Okay, next item of business, approval of an ordinance adopting the 2023 fee schedule. Director Crayley, would you like to?
In front of you, you should have the markup of the new fee schedule. Yellow, there's not many changes, as you will see. The biggest change was towards the back with the water meters. The Badger increased their price to us, so Carissa and I got together and we put together the new prices to cover our costs when we give the water meters out. So other than that, that's about it. We're not going to do, oh, and Bruce added a sentence after the road service areas saying notwithstanding the above, if a road SSA does not levy maintenance taxes for 3 consecutive years, and no fee under this section shall be due until the year in which the road association resumes maintenance levies.
May I just comment on that? I did not add the sentence. It was approved by the board, and it was just featured in a interim amendment to the fee schedule. And what we did is make sure it's actually appears now in the body of the fee schedule. Before, you'd have to have known that there was an amendment. So I can't take credit for it.
Oh,
It
okay.
was trustee Hollander's idea.
Well, I gave you credit because you gave it to me, so. So that's it. Nice and simple. I'm not-
Everybody's got proper credit then.
yeah,
Anything
yeah.
else you'd like to comment?
Yes, on the exhibit to the ordinance at the top, it says it's exhibit to ordinance 230302, but it's actually 0303 based on the numbering we
I
just
did
did.
make the correction if you look up there.
Thank you.
Oh, no.
Thank you. Thank you.
So
Oh,
on
yes,
the,
trustee Haber, yes.
on the water connection charge on below that under C, we talk about the commercial water connection charge per residential equivalent, but it's per RE, and I'm not sure people will know what RE means. Should we actually spell that out? Because I don't think it's defined, is it? Someplace else in the.
Probably in the village code.
Yeah.
Probably in the village code, but we could,
Probably.
well,
Maybe we should, you know,
we could spell it out here.
because when I looked at it first, I was like, what's RE? What's RE? And then I realized what it was. But I couldn't find a place where it was defined.
What is it?
Residential equivalent.
That's for the commercial.
We'll just write it out when we actually publish the fee schedule.
What is the residential equivalent?
It's,
I know it's an RE, but that's sort of circular.
It's the amount that a household is deemed to consume by way of water, and that sort of translates to sewer. Maybe I should let Carissa answer this question. I think it's.
I was gonna let everyone go at it. It's okay.
Please do.
So your RE, so your resident equivalent is basically that your single family home is 1 RE. So when we look at the commercial, there's an equation, and Lake County has it stated on their website as well, since they're the ones that usually come up with that RE. So commercial could be 3.25, 2.2 from that residential equivalent. So as Bruce was alluding to, it's a ratio compared to what a single family resident home equivalent would be for the water usage for your sanitary.
And it assumes that an average home consumes either, is it 150 or 250 gallons a day?
150.
150.
So you're going to be sorry now you brought this up. So the question is, if I'm selling greeting cards, I certainly use less water than a car wash would.
Right.
Do they use REs different based on the type of business?
Yes, they do.
Correct. It's the usage.
Okay.
Yeah, restaurants, industrial stuff, it's all different.
We're not sorry you brought it up at all.
So I need a motion to
So
waive
moved.
first reading.
So move to waive first reading on the modified fee schedule
When you say modified, meaning with the addition of.
with the additional information that's been provided.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, motion passage. Do I have a motion for second reading and adoption, please?
So
Is
moved.
there a second? Is
Second.
there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Haber.
Aye.
Ordinance 230303 passes.
Okay, the last item of new business, approval of a rate request from Gaywald Hamilton Associates for an increase in the 2023 hourly rates. Village engineer, would you like to lead us through that discussion, please?
I know this usually comes through in January, but things have been a little chaotic and trying to catch up how Pat presented this, but he seemed to be pretty straightforward on presenting our rate increases. Typically just due to the CPI increase and also just the nature of the environment, our rates increased about the normal, what you've seen around the industry. We've loved working with you guys. I hope that we continue. If you have any further questions, please let me know.
Any questions, trustee Hollander?
We just signed a contract to do some of the back office work with Gaywald Hamilton.
Mhm.
That's on a contract. The fee schedule does not apply to that.
Correct. You signed it with at that point was that current rate.
Are there any other questions? Trustee Clayton?
How does the 8% compare to what you're charging other municipalities like ours? Are we particularly aggravating and so you charge us more?
No, you guys have been fantastic. I wish I could negotiate something different, but unfortunately, I'm not in that room for that discussion. But no, this is a uniform rate across all of our clients. You guys currently get the village rate, which is the most discounted rate we offer. And so really getting a great steal, as Pat would say, a great deal on it. So yeah, we charge the same rate. We don't have per clients. We have our different rate system. You guys are getting the lowest one.
Any other questions? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion?
One question.
Trustee Haber?
Any chance to make it a 2-year contract at the same rate?
Right.
I'll bring it back to the office. I don't know. We usually do annual though. I'm trying to get to that point where I have more of a decision making on that, but I will bring that back to leadership and see if there's a potential for it.
Are there any other questions? Roll call, please.
Trustee Hollander,
Aye.
trustee Eastman,
Aye.
trustee Dickon,
Aye.
trustee Clayton,
Aye.
trustee Haber.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for your service and all the multiple things that you do for us and your availability for calls from residents as well as members of the board and responding so quickly and promptly. I got the responding part. Again, thank you. Thank you. Having no old business, no reason for executive session. I've got a point here, comments from the board. Are there any comments from the board? Okay, moving forward, the next time and date for our meeting is April 4th at 7:30. Do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Thank you. I have questions for you.
It just occurred to me that the document for the fee schedule that was in the packet is not what we have posted online. So we approved not the latest document. So. If the preliminary online is the later version of what we approved.
What? Was the packet that was posted the preliminary packet? It wasn't?
I know this. No, it's the same document